I don't know what I would do. If I was the Dolphins, I would probably try and come to some compromise to be like, look, highest paid, no, just under the highest paid, let's do it. If I was Tua, I would probably agree.
Big breaking news from the NFL. Miami Dolphins have agreed to a 4-year, $212 million deal with quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. That's latest from our senior NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. At highest paid quarterbacks when it comes to average annual value, Tua now sitting behind the likes of Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, ahead of Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, and Patrick Mahomes.
Woo! Call me now! It's the Psych Effects Friends Network. The Psychic Effect Friends Network. Yes! I predicted it! Yeah, I know what you're going to say. The show came out Monday and he signed the contract on like Friday or Saturday or whatever, but I recorded that episode on Friday. And that contract was signed like an hour or two after I recorded that episode. So yeah, I'm taking credit for making that prediction. Yes, sir. Call me now. I don't know anybody that gets that reference. It's the Psychic Friends Network. Dionne Warwick, by the way. Look it up, children. I don't know how many children actually listen to this show. Anyone under 40. I don't know how many of you listen to it anyway. I'm spitting into the wind. Dionne Warwick. Look her up. Psychic Friends Network. Shout out. University of Hartford. My alma mater. Go Hawks. She went there. She got a music degree from the University of Hartford. One of our most famous alumni, along with Jeff Bagwell. Bags. Dionne Warwick. Psychic Friends Network. I'm stepping in walking in the footsteps of legends of psychics, making these predictions. Anyway, moving along with the Tua stuff. Yes, I made this prediction. Tua then signed this contract, making him the almost the highest paid quarterback in the league. And immediately after this, he went on Le Batard's show, like a special show, where he sat awkwardly in between Le Batard and Chris Cody and Stu Gatz and did this 20-minute interview where he talked a bunch of stuff, and nobody cared about any of it except for this one little 1-minute clip where he talked about Brian Flores. And for 2 years he was under Brian Flores. Flores very famously came from the tree of Bill Belichick. He came down here as another one of these Dolphin savior coaches like Bill Parcells and Cam Cameron and all these guys. And he failed miserably. I mean, he didn't fail miserably. He didn't win. Let's put it that way. And he didn't want Tua. This is the history. He didn't want Tua. He wanted Justin Herbert along with a bunch of other fans. And the story behind this is that he sort of treated Tua poorly, to say the least. He didn't want him around. He didn't like him. He didn't think he was a good fit. And he sort of, what some people would call, abused him emotionally. And just kind of called him all kinds of nasty things, like terrible, and you're not a good quarterback, and until he was fired. And then Flores was turned around and sued the NFL for racism, and went through this whole thing. And Flores was sort of like pushed out of the league because you don't sue the most powerful corporation in the United States. Can I say that the NFL is the most powerful corporation in the United States? I mean, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple. I would say the NFL's probably even more powerful than those guys. I mean, maybe Amazon, but like the NFL owns an entire week, an entire day of the week. Like, owns it. Like, nobody does anything on Sunday. except watch football. They just got an entire court ruling overturned that they're charging. The court ruling was that they were charging too much for this NFL Sunday ticket package because they had a monopoly on it, and they just got it overturned. And now they're going to charge an arm and a leg for it, like $400 or something like that. I don't even know what it is because I don't pay for the Sunday ticket anymore because I think it's too expensive. I don't know. I might pay if I didn't live in South Florida and get all the Dolphins games anyway. I probably would pay for it. But I get the Dolphins games anyway, and I pay for Red Zone, and I don't care about anything else. I don't know how people pay for that, but they do. And the NFL doesn't care. They're just going to keep paying for it. They keep putting games in and games in. They keep adding games. They keep putting games during the week. They keep pushing out other games. College is just their minor leagues. I would call them the most powerful league. Anyway, Flores sued them. And just like Colin Kaepernick, if you're doing something against the league, you're going to get thrown out. And Flores basically got blackballed, and he was out. He just got a job again in Minnesota as defensive coordinator. And so he's sort of like, I think he sort of feels like he's walking on eggshells. And then Tua comes out, and he goes on Le Batard, and he says this thing with this renewed confidence of a guy who just got his guaranteed money. He's in the league. He's doing really well. He's breaking records. He's the next Marino, although I hope he wins the championship, unlike Marino did. And then he says this thing. Here's what he said on Le Batard about Flores.
Can you explain to us the difference in practical terms between having a coach who did believe in you the way that he did and the difference between that and what was happening with Flores?
Yeah. Well, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you sucked at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad, and you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it was, I mean, it's basically been, 2 years of training that out of not just me, but, a couple of the guys as well that have been here since my rookie year all the way till now.
So that's from the Dan Le Batard show with Stu Gatz. And what people keyed on is the word terrible person, okay? And, of course, they're going to go and track down Brian Flores in Minnesota, and they're going to ask him about it. And, I talked about the last time I did the show is how do you value a human being? When I talked about how much to give Tua as a quarterback. And this sort of is on that line is how do you value a human being when you're interacting with them as a coach? Now, some people are coming out and being like, oh, get a grip, Tua, toughen up, this is football, stop being a, whatever they're calling him, and it's like the guy plays football. It's our most violent sport. He's already tough, but I could see the other side of it. It's like he's playing quarterback, and the rules now for quarterbacks are that you can't even breathe on them. But he also was like 2 years. He was like a hit away from like retiring because his brain was scrambled from the concussions. So like there's a line between being critical and being tough on someone. right? And what he's describing is going into work every day and being told that you're a horrible employee. So, yeah, how would you like it if you went to work every day and your boss was like, and not just your boss, but the boss, right? The guy just under the boss, like 2 rungs under the boss. So basically, the guy making all the decisions about your life and your employment was basically like, you don't belong here. I don't want you here. I wish I had another guy. You're terrible and you suck. And yeah, I've got to work with you only because I was forced to by the 2 guys that are above me. And I'm telling them every day that I don't want you around, but whatever, let's just go get this done. And every time you make a mistake, I'm going to ride you. And even when you do something good, I'm going to ride you because, yeah, good for you. Would you consider that tough? Or would you consider that abuse? How would you like that? Right? Is he a terrible person for that? I don't know. Would he do that to Justin Herbert? Well, it sounds like no, but would he still be a hard ass? You know, is Belichick like that? Well, Tom Brady seemed to think that he got tired of Belichick being like that, but I can't imagine Belichick's like that with Brady after 8 Super Bowls or 7 Super Bowls that he won up there. Okay, so now he calls him a terrible person. They go find Flores, and it's like, well, here Flores, he called you a terrible person. What do you got to say about that? Well, what do you think Flores is going to say? He sued the NFL for racism. He basically got blackballed in the league. He's gotten this opportunity as a coach in the league again. He's probably trying to keep his head down, but he's got to answer these questions, right? So here's what he said. All right, and there's a couple of clips. Here's the first one.
I think part of coaching is correcting. I'm always going to correct. I'm always going to have a high standard. And I think, look, I've done a lot of reflecting and on this situation, reflecting on the situation, communication. I think there's things that I could do better, for sure, and I've grown in that way. And I've tried to apply the things that I could do better and the things that I've learned, over the last 2-3 years. But I would say over the long haul, I've had a lot of great relationships over my 21-year career here in the league. Players, coaches, personnel, equipment, people in the kitchen. I mean, really across the board, I've had a lot of great relationships. I'm going to continue to do that. But I'm also always looking to get better and involved. No different than as a coach, whether it's schematics or personnel or evaluations. I'm always looking to get better. I'm always looking for dialogue in meetings with coaches, with players. I don't care where a good idea comes from. You guys have heard me say that. And, I'm open to getting better. And that's always always my mindset. So, that hit me in a way that I wouldn't say was positive for me, but at the same time, I've got to use that and say, hey, how can I grow from that? How can I be better? And that's really where I'm at from that standpoint. Do I feel like that's me? No, but how can I grow from that situation and create a world where that's not, the case that anyone says that about Brian Flores.
Okay, so that's the first clip, and the cynic is going to be like, well, what do you expect him to say? You expect him to be like, well, Tua sucks. He's also a terrible person. No, of course he's not going to say that publicly, right? But it sounds like someone who's been through therapy, right? I'm always reflecting. I'm looking at myself. It doesn't reflect someone myself. We always try to tell people as therapists, as mental health professionals, look at your own behavior and how you've affected the behavior of others and what you've brought to the situation. Okay? Yeah, you can be cynical about this and say, well, he's not really different. He's just saying that to the reporters because that's what they want him to hear. Okay, yeah, maybe that is what he's saying, but why not take it on face value? Maybe he's different. Maybe he did go in and reflect on his behavior and how he was acting all of those times. Maybe he went through therapy and he's like, you know what, I was a bit of an a-hole to these people, and maybe that wasn't a good way of acting. And maybe this Mike Ditka tough guy approach where every time the quarterback makes a mistake, I come by and I grab his face mask and I'm like, hey, you fucked up everything. Yeah, I think the quarterback knows that he effed up and he threw an interception, and going up and screaming at him for it isn't the best approach. I think fans want something that they want their coaches to do, but isn't the best approach. Like, what do you want as a fan? Quarterback throws a pick, right? You want to scream and yell at the quarterback. You think the quarterback has figured out that they screwed up? So you want to scream and yell at them for throwing a pick? For what? Because you're mad at them? Yeah, the quarterback's the one that threw that. Don't you think they're mad about it too? You think that they're out there just like, oh, well, I threw a pick, so what? Like, you don't think they want to win? They're going back and looking at the iPad too and trying to figure that out. It's as if you think they don't care. And what would you rather do? Have a guy grab the face mask and scream at him, don't ever do that again, which doesn't help, or go and be like, look, here was the defense, here was the mistake, here's what you should have done. What's better, right? So maybe Brian Flores going out and being like, you suck, you're a terrible quarterback, I don't want you here, isn't a good approach. And what he's doing now is through the therapy that he's through, and I don't know that he has, but it sounds like it. Being the better person, right, that he's talking about, figuring out that when the quarterback comes back, going and showing him what he did wrong and why he sucks, right, is a better approach. And maybe Mike McDaniel is what is doing that. The players coach, what they call, is a better approach. And people don't like that term, but that's what works, right? And again, Mike McDaniel hasn't won a playoff game yet. But it's not the results that matter. I always tell people the results aren't necessarily the issue here. It's the process that matters. And you do the process over and over again correctly, the results will eventually come. They're not going to come for everyone. The problem with sports is the results only come for one team. Okay, so you could do the process a million times correctly, and at the end, only one team is going to win anyway. Okay? San Francisco did the process correctly last year. And in the end, Mahomes ended their life, their football life. Okay? San Francisco was fine last year. And they ran into the best quarterback in the league. Okay? So, process over results always matter. Okay? And that's what I keep telling people in my practice is, do the process right. The results will come because you're not in sports. You're in life. And in life, process matters more. And a lot of people get hung up on the results. We could do the process bad, and as long as you get the good result, it's what matters. And I don't think that that's the way to do things, because the results may bail you out of a bad process. You keep doing the bad process, you're going to get bad results more often than not. But in sports, people care about results more, so they don't care, that you went for it on 4th and 20 from your own 20, as long as you get the first down. That's a bad process, but it worked. So who cares? Because you got the result. So here's the second Brian Flores clip talking about whether or not he'd ever talk to Tua again.
That's something I've thought about. And maybe when that time is arises or is available, I'm certainly open to that. But I got a lot of other things going on too, as he does. And again, I'm just really focused on the guys here and the work that we're putting in here. And one thing that as far as feelings and emotions, I think something like this takes away from the guys here and the work that they're doing. We've had 2 games and went to Cleveland. We're talking about something else, and it's important. But at the same time, I'm always thinking about our guys and their improvement, and an opportunity for them to get better, and for me to kind of shed light on some of the things that they're doing when I get up here, and not really be talking about me or a situation with me. That's for me. That's in a team sport. I'd rather be talking about them than myself.
Okay, so it's basically just him saying, look, maybe one day we'll talk, maybe not, but he wants to focus on the team, which that sounds like standard coach speak. What Belichick always says, on to Cincinnati. And I'm fine with that. I don't know that there's any love lost between the two of them, and I don't know that they're ever going to speak again. They may not be friends, and that's okay too. They don't have to. Okay? If you feel like you've been abused by someone, and that may very well be what Tua thinks, you're not required to make up with those people. That's it. Okay? And that's the take. Okay? Always strive to be better. If that's how Brian Flores has taken this situation, and we're going to take this as face value, and he's better now because he's looked back and gone, I did treat people poorly before, and maybe he's gone to therapy, and maybe he's a better person for it, fantastic. And there's no reason to go in and be like, oh, this is all made for cameras and all kinds of, he's just making all of this stuff up just to say what he's saying, just to get the cameras off of him, and just so he can, win a lawsuit or get his reputation better. I'm going to take him at face value and say, you know what? He went to therapy. He's doing better as a person, and he's treating people better. Okay? That's it. That's the way I see it. And, good for Tua, by the way, too. He's doing better. He's excelling as a quarterback because he's in a better situation. He feels like he's not being abused. He's being treated the way he wants to be treated. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be treated better either. So both guys are in better situations. What's the problem here? Why are people, flipping out on Tua and criticizing either one of these guys? Both of these guys are in better situations. The only thing I'm going to say now as a Dolphins fan is, Tua, you got your money. Go win a Super Bowl. All right? That's it. Let's go.